Hey, it's me, Shawnee, and it is Money Monday, and I'm just here to make sure that you do at least one thing to add some value to your purse or your wallet in some cases. You know, right at the beginning of all of these episodes, we make sure that we give you some money, honey, right? We make sure that you see it, you feel it, you hear it, you think about it, right? You think about it, right? So open up your spiritual purse, open up your actual purse, open up the place in your mind where you receive wealth, where you connect with information that gives you the ability to progress towards more money. All right, because I'm going to give you some. You ready? You ready, sis? You ready? It's coming right at you. It's coming right at you. Coming right at you, quick, fast, and in a hurry. Okay, money your way. All right, so today we're going to be talking about how to blend bands with your bae, okay? How to deal with money when it comes to your mate. So there's this misnomer that divorce, the number one reason that divorce is caused is because people don't have enough money. So this is allegedly the statistical data that goes around saying number one reason why people get a divorce is because of money. Actually, statistically, the reason why they actually get a divorce, it is related to money, but it is not the lack thereof. It is actually the communication surrounding their cash flow. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So if you have any questions at all as it relates to having a conversation with your mate about money, if you're thinking about financial forgiveness, if you have like ways that, gosh, man, I wish that me and my partner could actually partner so that we can be able to leverage the amount of money that we have access to, you want to drop those comments in the comment section. So of course, I'm not having this conversation by myself. I'm actually having this conversation with one of my former classmates. We went to high school together, and he happens to have a knack for something that I am deeply vested in, which is therapy. He is actually a mental health therapist, and he's been helping clients for over a decade when it comes to rebuilding their relationship with healthy communication styles. So all month long, I'll be talking about money in your mate, how to build budget boundaries, how to deal with financial forgiveness. Can you actually get over it if your mate continues to overspend? What if we both don't have the same goals? One of us wants to purchase a home. The other one is looking to do more investing, and we just can't agree. So we're going to bring Matt into the conversation so that he can kind of help us out in terms of some of the things that he might be working on when it comes to his clients directly surrounding money. Let's welcome Matt now.
Hey everyone.
Matt.
What up? What up? How you doing? I was looking at my wallet for my money too. I'm like, where's my money? Like,
I know. I sent you some money. You know, that's the thing about purse empowerment. We do not discriminate. We give the purse and to the wallet. We
That's what's up.
Because we want to make sure that you have access to wealth to grow and to lead for your family and to have a lot of fun with it while you're here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got a few questions. We did receive a few questions, and for those of you who would like to send questions over to us, all month long, we're going to be talking about how to share money with your mate. So I'm going to drop my email address. So if you have questions, you want to make sure that you email me specifically about this. In addition to, I'm going to drop Matt's IG. So if you have some questions directly, maybe your marital or your couple frustrations is not directly related to cash, but he has been working with couples for over a decade when it comes to helping them create healthy communication in their relationships. So we're going to drop his IG. Okay. All right. So I did get a few questions, Matt. I did get a few questions, right?
Okay.
And one of the questions that I received, which is like a huge one. I even have this one when it comes to my clients. I even have this one myself. How do you feel about separate accounts? How do you feel about separate accounts? Either if it's, look at your face, you're like, you start.
I'm ready for this one. This is one I get a lot. Like I see this a lot in therapy with couples. Me personally, I don't have a bias towards either one. You know, I think what keeps it healthy is the communication you have leading up to whatever decision you make. And as long as that communication is fluid, then either one can work based on the type of communication you have, and so there are some couples who have separate accounts that really struggle with it because they don't have the intact communication necessary to keep that flow of information going back and forth. And then there are those who have the joint account but mismanage that account based on same thing, not having the flow of communication necessary to continuously maintain the communication necessary to have effective financial freedom, as you were saying. So I'm not leaning towards both. I think it's per client. Some clients can do it and be successful. Others may struggle and may need to separate their accounts. And so me personally, I wouldn't say yay or nay to either one. I would say it has to be based on the couple, and I would have to assess and sit down with that couple to give a full answer per client.
Okay, cool. So, interesting enough, I know that you work with people specifically about communication. I typically work with clients specifically about, just goals and achievement and partnering together. And I myself have seen it work in two different ways, but where I see it be very dysfunctional is where there are not any couple financial goals. Those are the clients that I see have more money mayhem than anything, right? So it's not so much whether or not if someone has a separate stash, it's that they don't have any common cash goals, where I've seen them become extremely abusive to each other when it comes to, overspending, when it comes to hiding packages, when it comes to, just kind of just living separately, because when you start living separately financially, to me, that's like the beginning to like real life separation, because money is, it's energy, it binds us together. So when we start kind of slicking and sliding, that is typically when there's about to be some fallout.
So I like that, what you said about the connectivity of what money does. One of the things that even before we get to the financial conversation, I categorize finances as a level of intimacy. And so if you could understand that finance is intimacy, then let's get intimate. Why are we holding back? Let's be intimate in every single areas, including finances. And so as I teach communication, there is a level of communication you have to get to be able to share intimacy. So if 5 is just the basic level of communication and 4 is just facts, you're exchanging facts with a person, and 3 is just opinions, 2 is emotions, and 1 is vulnerability. The ways to get to intimate relationship is through 2 and 1, emotions and vulnerability. So once you get to those levels, then you can communicate about anything you desire. And that's where intimacy really begins. And intimacy is just anything that can bring us close together in our relationship. And finances is one of those things that can bring us really close or tear us apart. And so therefore, you have to categorize a financial conversation as an intimate conversation. And people have to learn how to have intimate conversation. And so it's going to be a struggle if they don't even know how to communicate effectively on that emotional and vulnerable level.
Yeah. That actually is a really good segue into one of our first questions from Sayesha. And she's asking us, how early is it for us to know if money conversations are going to be an issue? So that goes back to the intimacy, building that intimacy. So would this be something that you try to establish, or try to get a knack for within 60 days of the relationship? Or would you be doing 90 days? Like, how would you, when do you see that it's a good time to start having these cash conversations?
Right. So intimacy doesn't work necessarily with a time frame. Intimacy works based on how open the person is to receive it and to convey it. So I can't put an actual time frame and say this is a specific time that you can start communicating about intimacy. Intimacy can start from day one. It's the level of intimacy that increases, that allow us to feel safe. In order to be intimate, you have to feel safe. And financial conversations are a conversation that requires a level of safety. And if you don't feel safe, you're not going to go there with that person. And sometimes when we get there too early, the person may not be in a space where they can receive it. Because intimacy communication isn't just you talking about it. It's the space you're talking about it. It's the context in which you're talking about it. it's the time you're talking about it. It's where that person is physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually to receive what you're talking about. And so I don't know if there's a specific time frame. I would say focus on building an intimate environment to have specific conversations. And that can be as early as, 2 months, 3 months into the relationship, and even that's kind of vague too, because when does the relationship begin? Some people have been in these situationships for years and don't know when their relationships start, or you have to
I've even heard so last week we were kind of talking about like on the first date, because sometimes like my clients ask me this question. They'll say, Shawnee, how soon is it to ask someone their credit score, right? And I'm like, that's totally not like a first date question, like they'll ask me, they'll be like, I need to know his credit score, because they're trying to see how cash compatible that they are. But for me, I think that if there's really no intimacy, that probably is going to rub someone the wrong way. And I talk about credit and building your credit score every day. And if I was having that type of conversation, like, well, what's your credit score on date number one? I'm like completely
turned off. Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
So you have to build that intimacy. And I would like to say you got to start with mental first, because I want to know if I'm compatible with you mentally first, then emotional, of course, and spiritual, and there are other areas as well. But if we jump straight to finances, that's another level of intimacy that you have to cross. Once you can say, I'm connected to this person in a way where we can exchange mentally, like we're on the same page, and emotionally, because sometimes, I think you mentioned it before, people have an emotional attachment to their finances. And so if they don't feel like they're in the right space emotionally with that person, it's going to be hard for them to reveal that, because we don't know everyone's story. And so sharing their financial story might be an emotional conversation, and that takes a level of intimacy and safety that a person have to build towards to be able to get in that space to have those conversations.
Okay, so definitely, and for me, I think if you ask those questions, those profitability questions too soon, then prematurely, then you can actually create where someone can be being dishonest with you, because they don't have like that genuine, vulnerability with you. So they're just completely off guard. So we got another question here from Saisha. And for those of you that are tuned into the conversation, if you have any questions as it relates to how to blend money with your bae, how to talk about cash as a couple, how to discuss, marriage and money, drop those comments in the comment section. So Aisha is asking, is it appropriate to ask about what happens with the partner's money in the separate spending account, or is that just too much once an account is deemed separate?
Right. No, it's not too much. Transparency is intimacy. The more I can reveal, the more you know me, the more you know me, the more you feel safe with me, the more you feel safe with me, the more we can be intimate. And it's a cyclical pattern. Like the more we are connected up here, the more we're connected right here, and the more we can connect in other ways. This is a very intimate question. And if intimacy isn't there in the first place, then going here will cause schisms in the relationship, because to have intimacy, you have to have trust. And if I don't trust you, I'm not telling you a thing, And so this is an intimate question. I need to know how much I can trust you. And if I'm in a relationship with you, therefore I should trust you. And if I do trust you, this is nothing to be revealed.
Okay, great. So that takes us to the next question that we have. The next question is about financial forgiveness. So let's say that, we have habitual offenders where, they set up these couple goals, and then you have one of the members or both of the members constantly violating whatever they set in stone. So I'd like to know, how would you recommend that someone begins to offer financial forgiveness in the event that the partner is not even asking for forgiveness? Because I've had that with clients before, where, they're not even aware that one person is deeply wounded because of how they maneuvered around with the money. So how does one begin to forgive financially in the event that they have apologized and when an apology has not been issued?
Right. So forgiveness is not necessarily for the partner, it's for that person, Like when we carry around those unresolved issues, we're just making ourselves unhealthy. Mentally, that's a lot of weight. Emotionally, it kind of clogs us up to be available to the people who we care most about, and those are the individuals that are close to us. So if we have this blockage, then it's going to cause us a lot of issues in the relationships that are important to us. So it's always good to forgive. One of the rules of thumb I teach couples is forgive often and forgive quickly, because forgiveness is the start of the process of reconciliation. That's not the end. I don't just say sorry, or the person just doesn't just apologize and it just goes away. You forgive, and then you work towards reconciling, and reconciling requires different things for different people. It may require being more transparent. It may require being more vocal. It may require being more honest, more reliable. So whatever it takes to get there, but forgiveness is just that first step towards something different. It's not to say that once I offer or receive the forgiveness from that person, it's done. Now the work really begins, because the best type of forgiveness is change behavior. So let me see it in your actions. Thank you for saying it. I appreciate it. But what will you do now to show me the difference in your?
That was extremely helpful. That was really, really, really helpful. Where the first step is just to, number one, just to acknowledge that, hey, what you did, it kind of hurt me. I didn't really like it, the way that you moved around with the money. You said you weren't going to do this, you weren't going to do that. And
Right.
Then you provide the opportunity, clear some space out for the person to demonstrate some different types of budgeting behaviors.
Right.
So you address when the person, acknowledges that there has been some type of dollar dysfunction. You acknowledge that. But what happens when because I've had this with my clients where, a spouse can lose a job for a period of time, and then one of the person becomes responsible. This has happened with a few of my clients during COVID. So one of the clients will become responsible, for all of the financials, within the household while this person is not working.
Right.
I've seen it where people have gotten sick. I've also seen it where people have had job loss. So one of the parties in the relationship will begin to pick up the financials. And then I've seen where one member of the couple will, go back to work and get started, and they won't even acknowledge what it is that the partner did to kind of sustain the household while they were, kind of reconciling. So I'll have some work with that client in terms of, okay, you've got to forgive this individually, but they're still kind of bothered by the fact that the person is not trying to kind of help them rebuild their finances.
Right.
Sometimes the loss also caused issues with their credit. So there's so many different things. So what happens when there's no acknowledgement of this dollar dysfunction? What do we do then?
Right. That's conflict, and conflict resolution requires a lot of transparency. Like, you can't go into a conflict situation without being prepared to communicate effectively. So even before I could even address conflict with the client, they got to learn how to communicate. We have to have rules of engagement. What are our rules of engagement? How do we forgive? How do we reconcile? How do we get back into creating healthier expectations with each other? Well, one of the first things we have to do in every relationship is express gratitude. Right? So for the partner who is working, be grateful that you have that job. For the partner who is not working, be grateful that you have a spouse or significant other who is providing something for that household. And in expressing gratitude, you have to do that daily. That's something that you have to consistently do, because gratitude puts you in a healthier space to be able to perform and to show up in a healthier way. So if you don't have a job and you're miserable and you're staying in their funk, you're not expressing gratitude, you show up on that job interview, they're going to feel that energy. So to get out of it, you got to start expressing gratitude towards yourself, your significant other, communicate effectively, and then set healthier expectations for that person. Let's say, look, I know you're not working, but could you apply to at least 5 to 10 jobs per day? That's not asking for much, that's not asking for much, and it's showing that you're active in creating that change. And of course, that reconciliation process is a part of it too. If one of the partners are feeling offended by the person's lack of effort towards creating those financial changes in the relationship.
Sounds good. Those are some really, really good recommendations. One of the other questions that we have is, how often should a couple review their financial goals? How often should they do that?
Man, that's weekly. That's weekly. As often as you have date night, if date night is every week.
I don't know about that one, Matt. That one can get a little sketchy. So you're going to talk about dollars during date night? What if there's a disagreement about debt?
Okay, so if there's a disagreement,
during date night.
Yes, during date night, that's a perfect time to do it, because during date night.
But what if you're about to have fun? Now you're definitely not having any sex.
Exactly, right? The context of having a conversation is a healthy context. Sometimes we wait until conflict arises to have these conversations. And
I
we
know,
have to
but oh
control
my
the
gosh,
setting.
so Matt, so
Yes.
let's say this is the only time that you have like a good connectivity with your mate. You work,
Perfect.
they work, bam. So now we're finally, someone's watching the children, we're out to this restaurant.
Right.
This is the only time that we get together, you know, where it's just us.
Yes.
And now we want to talk about money. What happens if the conversation goes left? That means the dinner is done. That's like,
No, this is why,
there's no, probably not gonna be any sex. That's horrible.
this is why I'm advising this, because sometimes we wait for the worst context to have these conversations. We have to create a home court advantage, you know? And so that what that means is that you have the opportunity to control the setting in which you're having that conversation. For the most part, like I said, when we have these disruptive conversations, we could be anywhere. Date night and dollars. I like that person who echoed that, because that's true. It's like, why wait until it's chaos to then have that conversation? Why even forecast that it will be a negative conversation? I think in our minds, we have to start thinking about this conversation will be great. We're going to have a great date. Our stomachs are going to be full. Maybe we got a little wine in us, some rosé or whatever, right? I'm feeling nice. Let's talk. Let's talk dollars. Let's do it, because that's intimacy. You know, that's a level of intimacy that if you explore it enough, it won't be a foreign conversation and you can connect healthier.
I'm not liking that. That was going to be a no. I like every single thing that you shared, but that was going to be a no for me.
Okay.
I think I'd probably have to have, I'd have to have like financial date night where, hey, listen.
You can do that too. It doesn't have to be every night.
But it couldn't be the only date night within the week. Like, that would, like, because if it goes left, then the date night is going left.
There it is right there. There it is right there. What you just said is if it goes left, that means there's a part of us sometimes that forecast that it may go left. I don't forecast any negativity about.
I don't know that. I guess because I've been doing it so long and I've been seeing, but okay, so here's what we can agree on. Here's what we get. The date night and the dollars, Saisha, I'm not with it. I'm going to say.
I love it. But you need to hashtag that right now. Hashtag it right now.
We already arguing. I'm gonna go with no. But okay, but what I do like that you shared is that not waiting until chaos comes. That I do like, because oftentimes people don't address their financial frustrations until debt gets started, until they see their dollars being depleted, until they see those type of things happening. So definitely creating an environment where there isn't any stress would definitely, I'm totally with that one 100%.
Honestly, I have to change the context for that. You're absolutely right. It's not every date night. I'm being honest with you.
Okay.
We have to control what date night is. Date night for myself and my wife isn't just going out to a restaurant having a good time. Date night is where we connect and be intimate. You know, and intimacy, like I said, are a variety of things. It's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's financial, it's parental, it's social, it's relational. So date night can cover either one of those things. It doesn't have to be us going out and, you know, spending money. It could be us creating a setting in our own household where we can connect, and intimacy, finance, that's a part of it. And so I have to be able to take my wife out, you know, or separate ourselves from our kids, create an atmosphere that's conducive to us having a healthy conversation. And let's get it. Let's talk dollars and date night. Let's go.
Yeah, I like this. So for me, just a date is just represents detachment for me. Like, I don't like, that's not a time like that I'm attempting to have like any type of conversation. Like, so there can be like conversations, you know, hey, let's sit down, let's have a conversation. Let's weekly have a conversation. But if you merge my rosé bout with something, I'm not going to want it. If you add that with my steak, I'm not going to want to talk about it. If you do any of that, I'm like, because it's like, I like to detach. Like a date night is like, I want to have fun, not talk about funds. Like,
So funds and fun, same thing though. Fun. Funds can be fun. I mean,
definitely can be fun. I'm with on that. We've agreed on that part. But dollars and date night, it's a no for me. Drop in the comment section for those of you that are with us. I'd like to kind of see if you guys think it's cool to have money conversations during date night. Matt is going, yes, he's all
very intimate. It's intimate. You know, it's intimate. Once you get to the real nitty gritty of finances, that's an intimate conversation. It's a beautiful conversation too. You know, once you can start talking finances and dollars and you're on the same page, you're in sync, you have that same alignment towards those financial goals. oh man, like, wow, I'm with you. Oh man,
I'm with
say
you.
that
I
again?
like your positioning. I like your thought process, but I
Right.
still want to hear from the audience. What do you
Right.
guys think? Are you guys more with Matt? Let me know if you're saying, listen, let's get them coins together. I'm here from it. Some of the audience are with you, but if you're with me saying, hey, let's keep date night as date night. If we want to talk about money, let's talk about money in a separate environment. I'm all for money being, and more people are saying, oh, a lot of people are liking it. They're with you, Matt. Do not go to my money conversation with no date night. I'm serious.
You gotta change the context of it.
Another time.
You gotta change the context of it. Listen, after a great financial conversation, you have the best, physical after that. Because now we're
on another day. I'm just gonna go with another day. So it would have to be 2 date nights. It would definitely have to be 2 date nights. Okay, so somebody says yes, my hubby and I vote yes. Kingdom building. So they're all with it. A date night with the dollars. I'm gonna be like,
we're right here together.
For the date night.
We're right here together.
All right.
We can connect financially, we can connect physically, spiritually.
Yeah, I like connecting financially and physically, but I'm okay with talking money, but not the amount of assets. Yeah, I'm all for talking about money, just not during a date night. Don't do it. Don't ask me about nothing, all anything, what I bought, what I shouldn't have bought, what I should have bought. Not during no date night. Not that you can't ask, but during date night, let's have fun. Let's detach. I think detachment really gives you the opportunity to see your mate a different kind of way.
Yeah.
Way the relatability goes up and pops up. I got you though, Matt. The audience
is okay. All right.
It's a no for me.
It's a split right there. It's a no for you. It's a split. I think it's a split. Some says yes for you, some say yes for me. It's a split, but
it's cool though. Mostly though, the goal is to promote conversation. You understand, like to promote conversation. What's going to work with me is not necessarily yes. So Seisha said intimacy. Come on, Seisha. I'm still saying no.
You gotta redefine it seriously.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Even yes, totally. All right, so guys, so those of you who have tuned into this conversation, Matt is a family therapist. He helps people build their marriages and create healthy conversations. You know me, I help people create healthy relationships with their money. If you have specific questions, you can drop them in the comment section. We're actually going to wrap up this month. Every month with money therapy is how these conversations are shared with you. At the end of the month, what we're going to do is going to have a art therapy. So here's what we do, Matt. So we talk about money all month long, but I think that people have to have detachment. You see, I'm hugely a detachment advocate. I think that when you sharpen your sword, it gives you the opportunity to do a sharper cut. So I argue for detachment. So the money therapy event that we're having is we're going to do couples getting together and painting. So we're going to have a money conversation with just some basic boundaries about budgeting and financial forgiveness. And then they're going to do art together. That way they can kind of move through some of that money energy and hold on to a piece that's kind of saying, hey, listen, I want to have a different type of relationship with you when it comes to money. So I did drop that in the comment section. For those of you who would like to communicate with Matt, he's going to drop his IG so that you guys can follow him. If maybe you don't have questions as it directly relates to your money, but maybe it's about your marriage or maybe it's about you being in a couple.
Right.
And so we're going to head on over to IG. So if you've enjoyed this conversation, but you want to deeply connect, just head on over to Person Empowerment on IG, and we're going to pick that conversation up over there. Until next time, do something that's going to add value to your purse or your wallet. Ah!